shall rise up in the judgment with the men of this generation and condemn them, for she came from the utmost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon.
Yes, sir.
And behold, a greater than Solomon is here.
Yeah.
Now, let us reason together for a few moments from this subject, the Witness Protection Program.
I love
it. Did you say that? The Witness Protection?
The Witness Protection Program. Okay.
Please do God for this wonderful opportunity to celebrate a woman of God.
Yeah.
Now, the East Coast is slightly less conservative than the Midwest. So we have a lot more women preachers, pastors, and otherwise.
Right.
And in fact, in our jurisdiction, the jurisdictional supervisor is a pastor and founder of a thriving ministry.
That's right.
The Temple of the Church of God in Christ. And so we understand that there may be some reservations in some circles because of the lack of understanding.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So let me come from my own personal perspective. The reason why I have never fought women in ministry is because I was called as a boy preacher in Louisville, Kentucky on 12th Street in a brush harbor. And as a boy preacher, I had been asking my father for some time to give me an opportunity to preach, but he just didn't believe that somebody that young could have that calling. And so one night under that brush harbor where there was sawdust, mismatched chairs, and a beer tavern directly across the street, he said to me, I tell you what you do, get up and get it over with before anybody shows up. And he put me up, put the mic in my hand, and I looked back at him and said, well, why don't you sing something? And he sang the driest verse of Jesus, keep me near the cross. And from that point, he just knew he had gotten rid of me. But for some reason, God took over. And that night, we had more people than we had in the entire revival because for some reason, God used that child voice of mine to enter the beer tavern from across the street.
Wow.
To come to the grounds of that brush harbor service. A brush harbor is on the other side of scratch. If you got a tent, you upscale. A brush harbor is from the bottom up.
Yes, sir.
And it took 20 years for that sermon to be validated. I was preaching a revival in E-Course at the church that we had fellowship with for many years, Gordy Memorial. And one night after I closed the service, a woman came up to me and said, were you ever in Louisville, Kentucky? She said, I was in a beer tavern one night and a boy's voice drew me across the street to an outside service. I was just wondering if you've ever been to Louisville. And I said, God moves in mysterious ways. Because as a boy preacher, it wasn't just that my dad didn't believe that this could happen, but most other men didn't. Which means that in preaching as a boy preacher, I didn't usually get immediate acceptance into the pulpit. Which meant that I had to sit down on the lower level, usually with the women. And I've never had a woman to tell me, you're not called to preach. And many men will say, you're too young. God doesn't call Bishop. But I have never had a woman to look me in the eyes and say, I don't believe God called you. And that meant that I bonded with women of faith because they couldn't get in the pulpit and I couldn't either.
Wow.
And somehow or other, when God blessed me to get in, I said, I'll never keep you out because you were with me.
Wow.
I was
Wow.
You understand that what God has for you is for you.
Yeah.
Even as a boy preacher in Memphis, preaching in Mason Temple, as a sunshine band speaker, Mother Barbara Whitehead used to put me up.
Wow.
And I didn't realize that year, 1967, when I preached on Sunshine Band Day, and after I got through preaching, before I knew it, somebody had me up in their arms. I didn't know who it was until later I found out that it was Bishop O.M. Kelly. And he said to my father, bring him to New York. And of course, this was during a very divisive period in the Church of God in Christ. And for some strange reason, my dad was an O.T. Jones man. And being an O.T. Jones man, he couldn't take me to Keller Temple because Bishop Kelly at the time was on the other side of that divide.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
And so we had to go to bishops that had been appointed by O.T. Jones, which meant that we went to I.O. Jefferson and William Wilburn in Albany, New York. And of course, we had to go to the church in Cleveland, Matt E. Jonas.
Right.
And as we traveled, I.O. Jefferson in Hartford, Connecticut, who was the uncle of Bishop Stennett Powell, we had to integrate in other circles until God healed the division in the church.
Yeah.
I was there when police officers had to sit on the platform of Mason Temple between the bishops.
Wow.
I didn't just get here last night.
Yeah, Bishop.
So I've been around long enough to come to some divisive periods in the church. And that is why God has blessed me to have a healthy embrace and respect for women in ministry, because when God made the woman, he took her from Adam's side. The poet said, God took not a bone from Adam's head because she's not to be above man. He took not a bone from Adam's feet because she's not to be beneath man. He took not a bone from Adam's chest because she's not to be in front of man. Took not a bone from Adam's back because she's not to be behind man. But a rib from his side to symbolize equality. From under his arm to be protected by him, from near his heart to be loved by him.
Wow.
For a man of quality is not intimidated by a woman of equality.
Wow.
We recognize that the Holy Spirit levels the playing field. Every mountain and hill shall be made low. Every valley exalted, the crooked made straight, rough places made smooth. The glory of God shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. The fact is that the Holy Spirit is light years ahead of the infrastructure of many denominations. And so you have to be free to move in the Spirit. In Christ, there's neither male nor female, bond nor free, Jew nor Greek. We're one in Christ.
Yes, sir.
So you understand why it is that Jesus would speak these words of Luke 11:31, which to some people are uncharacteristic. For these words of Jesus finds him going against the grain of the chauvinism of Jewish culture.
Yes, sir.
Jewish males were trained to pray every morning, God, I thank you that I'm not a Gentile and I'm not a woman.
That's right.
But Jesus, on the other hand, was the liberator of women.
Yes.
Jesus is the one who brings women into his circle of ministry. He's the one who elevates them. Even by his birth, he validates women. For he fulfills the prophecy that a woman shall compass a man.
Yeah.
Jesus is, as Genesis 3:15 says, the seed of the woman.
Yeah.
He's not the seed of man, because if he had been the seed of man, he'd have the same sin problem that man has.
Yes, sir.
Sin is a hereditary disease.
Yeah.
But because Jesus bypassed deoxyribonucleic acid and did not
Say
receive
that.
a contribution from a male sperm donor, the Holy Ghost is the one that planted Jesus in the virgin womb of Mary, which means that he does not inherit a sinful condition, but being immaculately conceived, he inherits a blood type that can only come from God the Father.
Hallelujah.
Because not one drop of blood passes from the mother to the fetus.
Yeah.
Jesus was incorruptible, surrounded by corruption. No corruption entered into his body.
Yeah.
That is why the Lord Jesus Christ has a blood type that can heal the sick, that can raise